threats of legal action. So we had bomb threats. I was threatened to get punched up. My wife had phone calls to say that people were out to get me and knock me off. Those sort of things happened with a variety of groups. Well, basically started in my teen years after becoming a Christian at the Billy Graham Crusade, and I discovered that there were young people who'd invite their friends to come to church, and the message was, I'll come to yours if you come to mine, which sounds pretty fair. The problem was that some of the groups that people were interested in were rather unusual and very different to Christianity, but a lot of people knew nothing about them, and I decided it would be good if people knew what they were getting into. Back in 1979, 78, when quite a few hundred people died in the jungles of South America because of a man called Jim Jones, who started off as a pastor and seemingly with it, up-to-date modern pastor, caring for people from all walks of life and so on. It sounded he had a good beginning, but a terrible end. He led the whole lot of them to commit suicide and murder, and that became a focal point for people around the world. What's going on? What's this group about? What are other groups as dangerous? People heard that I knew something about religious groups and had been doing some studies on them for years. And so they started asking for information. That was the beginning of an organisation, Concerned Christians Growth Ministries, also called Lookout. Our main focus was helping families and individuals, but we were also concerned about getting the message out publicly as much as we could. So there was a lot of media involvement over the years, and from print media to film and radio, and lots of interviews where I was able to share information, and we had files on many hundreds actually, and so, you know, there were all sorts of groups from Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons through to the Moonies, to Freemasonry, through to Rajneeshit, Orange people, and many other groups, Eastern groups, Western groups, and New Age groups and so on, and the occult, groups involved with witchcraft and other things like that. Groups like the Rajneeshis, or Orange people as they were nicknamed, and exposing what their activities were at a public level so that people understood more than just their PR. The Om Supreme Truth group, for example, which was a Japanese group, and we discovered they arrived in Australia, in WA, and they actually purchased a sheep station up in the north and killed a whole lot of sheep with sarin gas as part of their preparation for gassing subway railway stations in Tokyo. We had various government representatives, including police and others, in Australia but also in other countries, where we were involved in providing them with information and documentation about things. The Children of God group was one, for example, where they had a good public image, or they tried to present a good public image, but the reality was terrible. You know, there was child sex and perversions and all sorts of things going on that they denied, but we had their own material which emphasised that they were doing these things. So we shared that information with government and other authorities. We closed our ministry in 2012 because things were changing around the world with particularly the internet, and religious scenes were changing. People were becoming more concerned about Islamic extremists and so on, and were getting information from other sources that we couldn't provide. Ended up putting our resources into a bank account and then helping others, providing financial support for other organisations and even individuals who wanted to do things similar to what we had done. There are still some groups that still cause concerns, and there always will be. There have always been groups that have caused concerns, and that won't change.